Here we are. What is going on? Colin
I
Campbell.
and Gary McGowan for
That's
the
right.
Market Intel Report.
That's right. So we thought we'd do a little surprise stream this morning and have a little fun, of course. Sharing all the cool stats that our brokerage gets to take in every month, and then get that out to you and your clients. We're going to cover our typical team meeting stats, and then we thought we would kind of break down just a little bit of what the market is doing in new market to give you an idea on how Colin and I look at it, so you can then go do and pull market stats for your specific area. How's that sound, Colin?
I love it. I love it. And the reason we're doing this today is, as you know, we don't have a actual team meeting this month. However, we do have an agent appreciation on Thursday, and we invite all of you there. That is just more to have fun. Let's let our hairs down. Both Gary, you and I, we can let our hair down.
Yeah, a lot of hair. I don't know how that's going to happen.
But it's more to let our hair down and just come out and socialize. We're going to have some real fun activities. So we want to keep that to fun and then break out the market intel where it could be information that we can always come back to.
Absolutely. And again, use this information to help educate not only yourself, but your clients. And I'm sure, as we've all experienced, the market is different than one that we've been used to over the last 6 months, 24 months, or even much longer than that. And use this to establish a new playing field almost for you and your clients, whether you're on the sale or the buy. And the best way that I've always found, Colin, and I know you teach the same thing with your team and so forth, is present the information and allow your clients to have that almost that self-discovery piece. And that's the best way to do it.
And that is so true. And the purpose of this is just for us to, yes, look at the stats, but to peel the onion, peel a few of the layers back just to really see. And, one of the famous saying by our favorite economists, when in doubt, zoom out. And that is what we're going to be looking at this morning.
Yeah, very good. Okay, so let's dive into the stats that we review every month. And of course, with that, we're going to start with the market share on all of the Toronto Real Estate Board. And you can see the sold to ask there, Colin, we're leading at just over 115%. And of course, we're going to start to see these numbers really get adjusted over the next several months as pricing strategies change.
Absolutely. And do bear in mind, these are year-to-date numbers. So as we start to see a pullback in the price, these numbers will start to decline somewhat.
Absolutely. Next on Toronto Real Estate Board, we have days on markets. We're all sitting at basically 10 days, maybe 12 days on market, which is good. And again, that's year to date. And that's just gonna, I think, Colin, what we're seeing, the trend is, if we pull it kind of month by month or even week by week, that is becoming much longer and longer. I know a lot of our listing agents are feeling that right now.
Of course.
Moving on. Now, this is pretty cool. We were just chatting about this, Colin and I, off air. Agent productivity by units. We are leading at 5 units, which is absolutely outstanding, Colin. And the neat thing here is, over the last, we'll call it probably 10 months for Keller Williams in the greater Toronto area, we've had the largest growth per market center or per brokerage for agents joining us that we've had since the launch of KW here in Canada 20 years ago, Colin.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And to look at these numbers and seeing our new agents, even with the influx of the growth that we've seen, productivity per agent is still 5 units. Those are some impressive numbers.
Absolutely. Yeah, that is absolutely amazing. One that, as all of Keller Williams Canada, we need to be proud of. So very good. Okay, so let's look locally a little bit, and let's start off with a new market. This is sold to ask, a new market year to date. You can see we're at 113.25%.
Mm-hmm.
And as we previously mentioned, we're probably going to see that number adjusted throughout the next several months. Moving on, we've got our market share, and these numbers are being tweaked every month as KWRC, our agents, are taking back that market share that belongs so importantly to you. So this is great news here. Moving on.
Before we move on there, if you can just go back there a bit.
Let's move on back.
Yeah. And what we've been talking about over the last, couple of months is during a shift in market, our goal is to always increase and take market share. Because once we take that market share now, once the market comes back, we're never going to relinquish, that hold that we have. So the goal right now is to grow, not just in aging in unit counts, but to grow in market share.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's the big piece. And when you have market share, you can control a lot of things, which is going to benefit your clients.
Absolutely.
All right. So, we flashed this out quickly, sold in new market days on market. We're leading there at, call it 7.5 days or a week. So this is fantastic. Again, this is really important to getting that pricing strategy correct today. And I know for the month of June, as we look at some of the numbers a little bit later, that's really going to be adjusted, and we need to be in tune with that. So we're going to talk about that in just a bit. Mm-hmm. Moving on. Okay, let's look up in north of Newmarket in the Georgina area. So this is sold to ask. We're at 111, 112% there. And we're, again, these numbers are all going to be adjusted as we go throughout the year. We've got our market share at creeping up to back to 5%, which is good. And that's important as for all the things that you just said, Colin. And as we attract some top agents in that Georgina area that are going to bring market share, this is important for that to happen. Next days on market, we're sitting at just under 10. You can see there's about 3 or 4 other brokerages doing about the same thing. And again, this is all important to share this information with your clients and to get that pricing strategy correct. And when you're choosing a pricing strategy, it's important to relay this type of information out so your clients have a good expectation of what that market's doing around them.
Yes.
Okay, let's look at Aurora. Market share year to date, this is sold to ask at 110% of the asking prices. We're leading there by quite a bit, actually. This is fantastic. So you can see we're over 2% or at about 2% higher than the next best there. And if there's any sort of, we always talk about this, Colin, if there's any sort of commission feedback or obstacle you need to get around, sometimes all you need to do is show them this. You're selling those homes for 2% more in Aurora, which is a good objection handler way to handle that for sure.
This slide is what should be one of your favorite slides if you're trading in the Aurora or any listing presentation you're going on in Aurora. Use our company stats. This is as a brokerage, we're selling on average, 2% more than our next competitor. So certainly use this to hold on to your commission there.
Absolutely. Moving on, market share, almost 32.5%. We're going to call it 32.5%. This is outstanding on a number of different levels. And this is for year to date. And again, all of these stats, whether it's in Newmarket, Aurora, or Georgina, they're based on offices, or what we're doing is taking offices that have a physical location in those areas. So again, to share this information with your clients, make sure that they understand that these are stats that are put up against the other offices in those locations. And you can see our market share keeps continuing to grow in Aurora. So congrats to all of our agents out of the Aurora office. Moving on. Days on market, you can see we're at, we'll call it 13 days on market or 2 weeks. That's looking good. We like to beat around that 2-week mark. And if it's any longer than that, that's when we need to be having that pricing conversation with our clients to make sure that we are in line with the market. I heard a great line the other day. We've always heard this one. Do you want to be, you want to be on the market or in the market? And while we are experiencing a shift, Colin, we don't want to be pricing to be in the shift. We want to be pricing to be ahead
of the shift. Absolutely. And so since we're starting to see longer days on market, as a brokerage, we've been preaching this for as long as I can remember. After every 14 days, let's do a cancel relist, so that we can keep that listing fresh. It's up front, and it's a brand new listing there in terms of marketing it.
Absolutely. And on that, talking to your clients and making sure that they're in tune with what's going on in the market. If you're talking about doing that cancel and relist and so forth, and setting themselves up for that expectation that, hey, most likely what we're seeing now in the market, homes being on the market for 14, 28 days, longer than a month, make sure that they are aware of that, because that's setting the expectation. You don't want to set yourself up and them up for failure when we have the data right in front of us.
Well said, Gary.
Okay. So we said we're going to dive into some of the local market stats of what's happening with the number of sales. And we thought we would choose a Newmarket here. And we're going to explain this a little bit. Why we chose Newmarket is because we needed a larger sample size. That's a good slip there, because we need sales, a larger sample size of what's happening in the market. We could do all of York Region, but that might skew it. If we started doing some of the smaller areas, that might skew the numbers. So let's look at Newmarket. And what we're going to look at is the number of active homes, how many sold, and of course the median price. And then we're going to dive into a little bit of what each one means and how to interpret that and how to give that information or present that information to your client. So what you're seeing on screen here right now, Colin, is for the last 3 months, March, April, and May, the active listings, or the number of active listings for townhouse, semi, and detached. And always a good barometer is detached. We'll kind of focus in on the detached over the next couple of slides. And you can see here, we've seen an increase of activity or active homes over the last couple of months of what's happening here. That's just the news right in front of us. Where it gets interesting is the next couple of slides, Colin. So let's look at that's active. Now let's look at how many have sold. So since March, we'll call it at 100, and we've seen that number come down, about 20 units.
Yes.
And I can tell you a little spoiler alert, we're going to look at another slide, and it's really changed for the first 2.5, almost 3 weeks of June here. So it's interesting, Colin. When I'm looking at this slide, I see our detached numbers come down, and ever so slightly our semis and towns have gone up.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And we always know in a market shift that our entry level homes always move the fastest compared to the detached. So that's probably, if you're to ask me, how do I read this slide? That's probably what I'm seeing, is people perhaps are feeling a little uncertain about buying the detached homes, but perhaps our first-time home buyers are seeing this as an opportunity to get into those towns or semis.
And that's a great way to look at it, because here we had in March, we had 21 semis, and in April we dropped to 12. And in May we saw a slight increase of 5 more that were sold. So it's trending in the right direction, and that is why we're just peeling the onions away so we can really dissect the market. And Newmarket, the amount of transaction in Newmarket gives us a great sample. Over the next month or two, we're going to continue to look at different pockets to make sure we have the right sample to also show you this information.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, moving on. The next one's the medium price. And I know this won't be a shock to anyone, as we've seen that price since March, or really since January, February, come down. And it's come down right across the board there. And just in May, looking at the semis and townhouses, it's interesting that townhouses are priced significantly higher than semis, and part of that is, Colin, we don't have a lot of semis in this area, and I know definitely the same could be said for Aurora. I know here in Stouffville that's similar, but having a look at detached.
Mhm.
We're at 1.5 now, down to 1.28. That's about a 15% decrease in price. And I'm sure it's much, much more than that since January or February.
Of course.
And then the important thing here, too, is if I'm sitting down at a listing presentation, Colin, I have these stats, and we go through these stats before we actually look at the comparables.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm setting them up. Again, I'm setting them up for the right expectation when it comes to their pricing. And I want them to see right on the paper that we're seeing a decline in price, because remember, clients, sellers, and buyers, they think they know the information, and because someone told them the information, they believe it to be correct.
So it's important to not just tell them the information, but show them the information. Because you and I can be sitting across the room from each other at a listing presentation. I'm going to tell you this information. You're going to say, yeah, yeah, yeah. However, if I were to pull this information out and show you now you're making that decision for yourself. Like, this is the actual data. I choose to believe it.
Yeah, absolutely. And what I would do there too is also show a couple of things. I would show the current days on market, so they have an idea, they have an expectation. If my sign goes up today, how long will I see it before there's a sold sign on top of it, right?
Absolutely.
All of that stuff is incredibly important. And looking at this, obviously we know, because we're in the real estate industry. We know the prices have been declining, but always look for the opportunity, right? Always look for the opportunity. And obviously this is now becoming a buyer's opportunity. Granted, there's some, what's the word? Financing and mortgages.
Yes.
Only our biggest partner when it comes to real estate. That's affecting the value and the cost of sale as well, and everything like that. But the next slide I'm going to look at, it's going to look like a lot of information, but I'm going to pull out a couple of things here, Colin, because I thought, a lot has happened from June 1st to June 19th.
Yes.
Right. And it's important for us to really have our thumbprint on the market. So this is a screenshot right out of our Treb stats, and you can see what I've got circled there is the detached, and we have currently 130 detached active listings in new market, and right to the right of it you can see the number 37 right here. That's how many have sold. So almost 100 units are still available.
That's a lot of opportunities there. I see opportunities.
A lot of opportunities. And you might say, hey, Garrett, Colin, like if I look at that median price over here on this column, it's gone up since the end of May. Now we're at 1.3. And you're like, well, hang on a second. Prices are going back up. Well, remember, look how many homes have sold compared to the previous month, right?
Yes.
And I know we're only, just shy of 3 weeks into it. And of course, coming out of a weekend, typically we're going to see some sold conditionals and sales come out today and perhaps tomorrow. Totally get that. But let's really look at this information almost on a daily basis. The other thing that we're going to see here too, on the townhouse, which is the top line right here, we're seeing that number come down since the last month of May as well. And then even the semis are down. You can see that here. And if you look, there's still, hey, if you're going to look at a townhouse, there's 16 available, which means there's lots of competition. So how are you going to stand out from the crowd? Mm-hmm. And this again, Colin, we always talk about in our listing presentations, to the seller, what's different, how are we going to stand out from the crowd? And it's important to not only look at what's sold, but what is our current competition.
Absolutely.
So, anything on this slide or anything here that you're seeing in the market that perhaps we need to make sure that our clients know, Colin?
I mean, you've said it, and just looking at what we've said so far, our interest rates going up? Absolutely, right? Are we starting to see a pullback in terms of home prices? Absolutely. Are mortgage rates, right? We know they're going up. Average rent, we're going to start to see that potentially go up as well, because now, with interest rates, many people might be thinking, is now still a good time to buy a home? And to me, the answer is still yes. Well, before I say yes, it might be probably. Are you looking to make a quick flip? If you're looking to making a flip, your time in the market. And I don't have that crystal ball. I've asked you for your crystal ball, and you told me you don't have one either.
Can't find it.
You can't find it. So there you go. However, if you or your clients are looking to live in that home for the next, 5, 7, 10 years, it's still a great buy, because over time we've seen the appreciation in value in terms of real estate. We always joke the best time to buy real estate is 25 years ago. The second best time is today. So you're advising your buyers and sellers, if they're buying and selling in the same market, it's a wash.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know, I just sold an investment property in Newmarket for a client, and we had a tremendous amount of competition.
Mm-hmm.
However, here's the best thing about investors is they'll just look at the numbers. And
That's
if
all
the
they care
numbers
about.
make sense, they'll go make a purchase. And that's exactly how we set it up. We talked with the sellers, we put together a good plan and priced it not only to be very attractive in the market, but we price it in the fact that it would attract a different group of buyers as well. So with that said, make sure that you're looking at all angles when you're at a listing, or if you're on the buy side, look for those opportunities, because yeah, maybe interest rates are higher than what we're accustomed to, and it's we've been kind of self-learned, if you will. Hey, interest rates should be at 2.5% or less, right?
Sure.
But what if you were to get into investment property today for whatever price it is, or if it's 15 or 20 or 30% less than where it was at the beginning of the year? Now let's look at those. And perhaps our mortgage payment is a few $100s a month. Maybe we just take a 1-year mortgage on it. And here's the other interesting thing too, Colin. And this is going to be a rabbit hole, but we're not going to go down it. We're just gonna poke our head into it a little bit. This is more of a rhetorical question, but anyways, how do banks make money?
They lend money. That's
They
how
lend money.
Yes.
And all I keep hearing from from real estate lawyers right now is, wow, the number of transactions that agents are sending us is way down.
Yeah.
If that means it's way down, what does it mean for the banks? They're not lending as much.
Yeah.
So while yes, inflation is high and interest rates have to adjust for that, I always feel when interest rates have to go up like that, what we're going to see is the bank starting to get creative on the products that they're offering and look for some unique product opportunity for your mortgages coming up, because banks need to get that money into the market.
And we've seen that they've done that before. And for anyone who, you're seeing interest rates go up right now, we're certainly not locked in, and you're not locked into those rates forever. Like you're rightfully saying, Gear, some creative ways will start coming out with the banks so that they can make money, because that's how they make money, by lending it. So I think that is something that we just need to keep our eyes open for. We're going to start seeing that very soon.
Yeah, absolutely. So to wrap this up, Colin, make sure you're presenting this information, have it in front, print it off, do whatever you need to do and put it in front of both your buyers and your sellers to help set that expectation. Look for that opportunity. Make sure when you're talking about pricing with your listings and your sellers that that you're all on the same page together, and that they know in 7 days and in 14 days, you're going to talk about pricing with them. So it's not a surprise to them. Right. And so you can be ahead of that game. Remember, we want to be pricing ahead of the market, not being reactive and being behind the market. Last words.
Absolutely. Well said there, Gary. I don't think I can add anything more to that. It was a pleasure, just going through this information and just peeling the onions back. So glad that we can share that. We're going to be doing lots more of this over the summer as well.
Awesome. Well, we'll see everybody at our agent appreciation. Apparently, rumor has it, I don't know, apparently there might be some jumping castles,
It might be a dunk tank for you, Gary. So we'll see.
Yeah, evidently. All right. We'll see everybody real soon. Bye for now.
Bye.